guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Asherz, and this is
Pat O'Sullivan.
So I wanted to kind of take a minute this week and explain a little bit of the situation that's kind of going on with the podcast right now. If you guys didn't realize or didn't know, or maybe I didn't make it very relevant or known, but Pat is the official co-host now to the show. So congratulations, Pat.
Was this up for debate? Was someone calling me an imposter?
No.
Why do you feel the need to stress this?
because we have been doing a lot of work lately and kind of we've not been changing the podcast, but rather upgrading it. And, I guess I wanted to make that clear that it's not exactly a rebranding that we're doing. We're just trying to find ways to make it better and, make it a little more enjoyable for everybody to listen to and just kind of get everybody on the same page. And I don't know. I just thought that needed to be, we just kind of needed to give an explanation. The Twitter account lately has been popping thanks to Pat here mostly.
Yeah. I mean, that's I guess, yeah, there's been a little bit of activity there because I got the password to it.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, there's been some changes. So, it's just been, what it is. So I just wanted to, like I said, let everybody know that, we're kind of doing some things, soon, one of these days, whenever, maybe when I'm not so lazy or busy with other stuff, I guess I should say, we'll add some music here and that'll be great. So, expect that in the future. So.
Oh yeah. Was I supposed to do? I forgot.
No, you weren't.
Okay.
No, you weren't.
Yeah. All right. I remember we had a meeting about this stuff and I think I've got a quarter of it done, which is usually like how it works for me. Like I'll say, okay, yeah, I'm going to do like 10 things. And then I get like 4 of them done. But I mean, 4 is better than 0. So
exactly.
That's the way I always look at it. It's like, I don't usually get everything done that I say I'm going to get done, but I get shit. I mean, at least I move the ball forward a little bit.
Yeah. No. You're fine. You weren't supposed to do. Right. I don't think we've like solidified anything else. Like I said, I just wanted people to know. Like I said, it's the same show. We're doing the same shit, same content. It's just that we're making it a little bit better. So
sure. And by the way, the Twitter account is at Wednesdays Talk. So if you're not following us there, follow us there because I we'll repost this. The show itself, but we'll also, I know we retweet lots of cool stuff. There's a picture of somebody from Throwback Tuesday. Jesus Christ. Look at you.
Me on my Throwback Tuesday? From last year? All the way from last year. Remember last year, Pat?
Hey, man, it's not the years, it's the mileage. I mean, it looks like another fucking lifetime ago. But yeah, so I try to and that was actually why I kind of wanted the Twitter account was because there's lots of times where like I'll see stuff and I'll retweet it on my own account and I'm like, but this would be really cool for the podcast because this is the kind of stuff that like the podcast is into. So I mean, it's a lot of like. It's just I try to get on there at least every day or two and like retweet something or pass stuff along. So if you like content, if you like what we're doing on the show, this is just an extension of that. Right. And it's not it's not very self-serving. I'm not sitting there trying to pimp myself or anything. But
right.
if you're into like weird articles and shit, like I like to do that. I like to share
definitely.
That stuff.
That way you guys don't have to, look at all my other, like if you're not into like the horror thing or whatever, maybe you're just into my weird talk, then, go follow the podcast page and, do that or, whatever. It's just a little more topic friendly for the show itself. So,
sure.
And then I think like eventually we should start doing like polls and more like, fan interaction and things like that, as we, put it out there more and let people know that it exists. So I think that'll be fun. But yeah, so no, I just wanted to say that. Otherwise, I think we should talk about this first. So and you already know.
I think we should do a whole episode. I think we should let this episode be as long as possible because you're going to tell this story, and I don't think that you should feel confined to keep it under 10 minutes. I think you should just let it out.
You think I should tell the story now, or you think
yes? Sweet Christ, this is like for people. Go on. I'm going to shut the fuck up and let you do it.
I'm going to give the short version. I'm going to try to give the short version, and I don't know how much I'm going to get into it exactly. Okay, so I get a lot of people that contact me about various things. So, some people are fans, some people just want to, know who I am. Some people are
Right.
contactees. Some people have sightings. Some people have ghosts in their house. It's a wide range of things. And that's great. It's wonderful. That's why I love what I do. I love people. I love helping people. And the investigations, I mean, they really, they get me hot. So I had an interesting contact from somebody who wanted to build their brand. I mean, I guess that's it. They wanted to build their brand, and I'm kind of talking to him about it. He's telling me how his brand and what he does is really low key. He's like explaining that he does some type of show at his house, and I'm not really understanding what he's saying. So I'm kind of like, well, for one, I don't do sex work, so I can't help you there. Number two, you kind of need the internet to do these things. And he's just so insistent of not using the internet to do this thing. And I'm like, curiosity got the better of me. And I'm like, well, what do you do? And the guy basically comes out and tells me that, pretty much, that
he is in possession of,
he has this massive cock. And
not just massive, but I mean, it was, and I'm gonna try to keep you on the rails with this, because I understand you're like just so overloaded with so much information here. But so basically, out of the blue, you get contacted by
Right.
someone
Yeah.
who's a fellow content creator, and he's looking for advice. He's looking to potentially network in some way. He's looking to expand his audience base, and he wants to kind of like collaborate with you in some way, not necessarily where you're talent, but where you could just offer him guidance,
Right.
or technical instruction, because you're a documentary filmmaker, so obviously you know shit about cameras and editing and stuff like that. So he tells you that he's not only, I mean, he said that the Guinness people have been out.
Yes.
So he said that he had the world's largest.
Well, so he didn't make the claim that it was the world's largest dick to me.
Okay.
He just was describing how big it is. Like, he's like, well, like I lay down flat on my stomach and it hits my mouth. And
but it's at least in the realm of being, it might be number 2 or 3, but it's still like up there. Like,
I
that's how
number 1. Now Guinness told him that it is the biggest, but they have never.
Okay.
But I get, well, for whatever reason, it was never followed through with. But which I don't know how much I want to get into that. So, he contacts me and he talks about his massive penis, and I'm like, okay, well, now, and typically, like, guys, please don't send me dick pics in my inbox. But, I asked him to send me some dick pics, and so, he does. And, it's, what can I say? The guy probably has the biggest penis in the world. I was like Googling like the biggest penises in the world, and his is bigger by far. I mean, I don't know, I can't tell what the other people look like, in person for like scale. Cause you don't know it could be like, he could be 5 foot, so his dick looks a lot bigger. And, I don't really know, but, from what I can see, like the head of his penis is as big as his head. And it's ridiculous. So
and I haven't, obviously I heard the story before tonight, otherwise I would be reacting completely differently. But I haven't seen pictures of it, so I don't know. So I can't really weigh in on that. But I assume that you've seen enough like fake pictures. You've seen like those bullshit like Monsters of Jizz videos where did they shoot glue on people and shit like that. So you're special effects wizard. You don't work for fucking ILM or anything, but
to me you would be really legitimate.
Okay.
Yeah, they look really, and I've seen video even. So I mean, the video pictures, okay, video would be even harder to fake. But he like sent me like one video where it's just hanging down, knocking back and forth below his knees, and
wow,
it's fucking wild. So yeah, so I brought this up to Pat, because the guy's looking for, what it sounded like to me was he was more looking for a cameraman. And, he says that he's got a hard time because it's not just that his dick is huge either. It's that he does like great acts of strength with his dick. Like he has body built his dick to be able to do things with it. And, he didn't really get into full detail about what those things were, but he explains some of it. Like he said, he does push-ups with his dick, but he also puts like sandbags on his back and it weighs about 300 pounds and he can do like 1,000 of those in a day.
So, and it sounds like this guy had some kind of lucrative side hustle going
Yes.
where he would do parties,
Right.
uh, or bachelorette parties, or I don't know what, but he
Yeah.
had some kind of side business that was going for a little bit, and he made some cash. And either just, through his own ambition, or potentially the whole COVID thing, reducing the amount of bachelorette parties he gets hired for,
Right.
he's not doing the same amount of business. So he wanted to kind of expand and reach a larger audience. But he was very specific about not wanting to do porn or anything like that.
Right. I mean, he's not like, he wants to do, like, his thing is like, he wants to do like instructional videos to teach you how to grow your dick this big.
Right, which is kind of like, I don't even know how you would go about that. Because we're skipping ahead. So I eventually started chatting with the dude a little bit yesterday, and like that was one of the things that he said to me, was he wanted to do like lifestyle videos or instructional videos.
Right.
And it sounds like ultimately, big picture, what he would want to do is come up with a YouTube channel. I understand YouTube isn't necessarily the best outlet for that, because they do have like standards and all that
they won't
stuff.
let him show his dick on YouTube.
But I mean, but at the same time, I don't think that he can necessarily do like, I don't know if it would be clips for sale. I mean, it's so weird, and I don't necessarily know like how much people are gonna want to really consume of that. Like, I think you would want to see one video, and then you'd be like, oh, that's crazy, and then like you kind of move on. Like, you know what I mean?
I guess he's like showing you how to do it. I mean, I suppose guys that feel inadequate would want to know how. So
maybe, but how would you, like, if you put together like a how-to video? I just feel like piracy is such a huge, it's just a thing, right?
Yeah.
Anything that people create is going to end up on a torrent site or something. So like, I don't know how you would protect that. I know that you wouldn't necessarily, there's no point in making DVDs anymore. So it's not like he's going to do a mail order DVD business. He almost has to do online streaming clips that he sells per download.
Right.
And once you sell the first download, there's going to be some amount of leakage to where it's going to go all over the place. So how do you create? And plus, are you going to send downloads for him doing lifestyle videos where he talks about meditation or whatever? Like, I can imagine if you paid $4.99 for a video and it was that, and you're just like, oh fuck, man, So there's a lot of problems with like what he wants to do and how he's trying to monetize it. And maybe I'm just not the right creative person to come up with the solution for it. But the other thing, there's so many interesting parts of this story. We haven't even gotten to like the really fucking woo-woo shit. But like, I was thinking about this today on my way to work, because I have a 45-minute drive in the morning and the afternoon, so I have plenty of time. I have plenty of time to think about this
guy's big dick. Yeah.
Yeah, and I honestly think that like, as far as like a career goes, like just about any other female has more of a potential to make more money in a career doing this than like that one dude.
Yeah.
I understand how he literally has the world's biggest penis, but like at the same, allegedly, but
right.
Even that, so like, how many movies is that dude gonna make? How many, you know what I mean? Like, how many different ways are you going to sell that video?
You'd have to
once people
find people that were like, I mean,
yeah,
and find people to participate in them, even, and that's
yeah. But you can, you find weird. Who knows that? I think, I don't know about getting big name acts, but you could probably get randos here and there. But it just seemed to me like even if a dude is that unique, that he still has less earning potential than your average like frumpy Midwestern girl. You know what I mean? Yeah. Like, there's still more marketability, and like, I don't know. That's just the way I looked at it. It was like this dude, even though he has the potential to be one of the most unique human beings in the world, he's still just a guy.
Well, he's definitely like a one-trick pony. He's got one thing. He's got, we'll get into other stuff.
Well, not necessarily.
He's got one thing, and he's got a big dick, and the biggest dick.
Yeah.
And and that's a big deal. I mean, that's a big deal. And it was just so fucking bizarre. And I'm just like, okay, and he really wasn't. Because of course I always have to consider, like, is this just somebody that's just trying to be weird with me? Because,
well, yeah, and let's talk about red flag number one.
Yes.
The fact that not only does this dude have the biggest uh, D on the P, but he's also like 25 minutes away from you.
Yeah, he lives super close.
Which to me was red flag number one. Was like, oh, and he just happens to be right in your backyard. What a fucking coincidence! Like,
It's
I
weird.
know Ohio's a magical state, but like, come on,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? What are the chances that the human being living on the planet Earth right now that has the big,
That has the biggest dick.
was from Ohio? Like, who would have put money on that?
I don't know.
Me.
A lot of people that know me would say that it would make sense, and I would know the person with the biggest dick in the world. So I don't know. You know, yes, I mean that's true. You know, now suddenly, you know, he's been talking about lately how attractive I am and blah blah blah. And it's like, okay, all right, yeah, I am, but you're still not touching me with your weird dick.
With your 10-foot pole, yeah.
Right. And so, and he was like explaining to me, because we've been talking about different things we could do. Not like we, like me and him, but just like creatively, you know, just to sell his brand. And he was like explaining to me like how he has sex, and it's bizarre. It's, I mean, he can't really penetrate because it's too big. You know, it's not like, are there people out there that he could penetrate? Yeah, potentially, but like for sure, not like all the way, you know, for one.
Yeah.
You know, number two, you know, he'd have to, you know, find that special someone. But other than that, I mean, he can't really. But he's like explaining how like he has girls like lock their legs around his penis and like jerk off his penis with like their thighs, because they can't really do it with their hands, because they can't even wrap the two hands around the thing hardly. And, you know, it's fucking just wild. And you know, he's explaining all this, and I'm just like, okay. And it's weird. I mean, but you know, so I don't know, you know, and it's like, you know, I asked, but maybe that's his kink. Maybe he wants me to ask. Maybe he wants me to be curious. And, you know, I'm not sure. But, you know, this was weird. And then it just got fucking off the wall when the guy discloses to me that he is being watched by the government because he's also an alien hybrid, and and the aliens talk to him on a regular basis. And that's really why his dick is so big. It's not because he's made it that big. So it's like, well, then what is up with the instructional videos? Like, is it that?
See, I missed that. So where was he? Where was he? Like, how much of it? How much of it was like him born that way? Was this? I mean, that's something I guess we never really got into, because I was just kind of talking logistics of production and distribution with him.
Right.
I didn't really get into. I didn't. You know, get it.
I still haven't really found that. I mean, at first he's like, yeah, I've done this. I've been doing this for 20 years. I've body built my penis. I'm kind of doing the research on it because I'm all about those receipts. And, you know, I'm like, you know, this doesn't really seem possible. Like, if this was possible, you'd have dudes with way bigger dicks than that guy. You know, that's it's just.
But if it's not possible, that means that the video and the pictures are fake, and you don't believe that they are.
No, I don't believe that they are, but he definitely could be born with some type of issue that causes him to have a really big dick. You know, elephantitis is a thing, you know. There's a guy with like these massive balls that I saw on the internet one time, and they're massive balls. They're real balls. It's just that he's born with a mutation, and so therefore he's got the biggest balls in the world. And I was talking to somebody about that too the other day. I'm like, you know, I guess I haven't really seen his balls. They're always hidden away. I wonder what they look like. I'm curious.
Right.
But, you know, then he's like, you know, when he talked about getting into contact with Guinness, nothing came of it, because immediately after he contacted Guinness, he got like hacked by the government and he's been on the government watch list ever since. And then somehow the aliens are involved. So, you know, I don't know. He's offered to let me meet the aliens. And, you know, and I, which I was telling you, you know, I think it's just one of those things where I show up and he's like, oh, they're here now. They want me to tell you this. And it's like, you know, there's nothing to that. I've been trying to like challenge the guy with different species and different things, but like, I really haven't talked to him at all today, because he's like, well, because that's the thing. And I really don't talk about it a lot, but I have personally had contact with something. I don't know what. I don't really know what's going on with myself. But I have been contacted somehow. And this, God, I sound nuts, but
Not in comparison.
No, like,
I think if you're gonna, this is a good time to drop that kind of bombshell because compared to what you're standing next to, it seems way more.
which, like, I've kind of talked about it before, but like my own, just my beliefs in general in the past year have just been totally fucking flip flopped just because of the experiences I've had. And, so when I was contacted, the times, because it's been multiple times that I've been contacted to be told that, like, I'm supposed to be working on the work that I'm working on. I'm supposed to be pulling out some type of truth for everybody to know, and I'm supposed to be the one to find that proof and present it to everybody. So the guy, me and him are having like these conversations, and I'm like trying to ask him. I'm like, okay, so if you're like, he says he's like 5 different species of alien. I'm like, okay, if that's true, why are you here? Why would you be on Earth of all places? Humans are pretty goddamn. I mean, we're pretty useless. In the grand scheme of thing, we really are. We're really just not very advanced. And he's just like, oh, well, because, I'm supposed to, help change things and fix things and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay. And like one thing he keeps telling me over and over again is that he's got nothing to prove to anybody. And I'm like, okay, so if you're put here specifically for a job to help change things, then you kind of do have something to prove to everybody, don't you? Don't
Right.
you have people believe, your credibility, and in order for them to actually take you serious, to have you help change. And he hasn't really talked to me since then. And I just told him, because he keeps referring to like me as like y'all, as in the human race, I guess. And I'm like, you say this, and I'm like, I have an understanding that your reality is your reality and my reality is mine. And but like what I have been told specifically is that I'm supposed to spread this message out to everybody. Like that's why I do this. And and so I'm just doing what I'm told. So if I'm asking you the hard questions, I apologize, but that's my job. Like that's what I'm supposed to be doing, is finding the truth. And he has not said anything since then. And that kind of worries me, because I really want to have him on the show.
Yeah, I mean, so definitely, when I heard all this, I was like, at first I was like, what the fuck? And then I was like, okay, well, let's pretend that this is real, or parts of this are real, or whatever. And I definitely was like, we should have him on the show. And I think that if there's anyone out there that has similar stories that wants to come on the show, because this is something, this kind of turned into like a conversation about like things that we could do with the show moving forward, because we almost had the dog guy on last week, and then he kind of, whatever happened there happened with that dude, for the Dogman episode. And it's like, so we're not opposed to having guests on. And if you look at like other like podcasts and like radio shows, obviously Coast to Coast AM was a huge influence for me, and I assume Ash as well. So it was like, they would have people on, and they would do the open lines thing where they would just have random people call in with stories. And I'm not opposed to doing that at all. I love to hear people's stories. And even though some of what this guy had to say, the way I look at it is like, there's a lot of things I would love to have a conversation with this guy.
Yes.
Not necessarily to like try to like disprove him. I mean, obviously the story that we told you, that we've kind of recounted like right now, is a fraction of what the big whole story probably is. And you're left with, the audience right now listening, you guys are left with questions. We're left with questions too.
Right. We want to know.
That's why you want to have the guy on, is to ask those questions. And maybe and then we can judge what he says from there.
Exactly.
And
because is it possible? I mean, yeah, sure. Why not? I mean, God, the guy's got the biggest dick in the world, and it's bestowed to him from his 5 different alien races. Sure.
Well, there's a lot of claims being made, and like that's just the thing, is that some of it, and some of them can be true, some of them can be not true, none of it can be true, all of it can be true. I mean, it could go in a lot of different directions, and I think the only way you're going to see where it goes at all is by following it. And I was down to talk with the guy, but there, you brought it up earlier where he thought he was being listened to, and he thought he was being monitored or something like that. Like that, he was very hesitant. Even when we were talking about like, well, what do you want? Like, okay, so you want to like, and that was the other thing too, was that he never claimed that his purpose for contacting you and trying to get the ball rolling on this, or trying to get something going, was to spread any type of message. It was legitimately. Yes, that was it from day one. Was like, hey, how like I used to do these strip shows in my double wide, and and COVID shut that shit down. So I need to come up with an alternate fucking form of income. And we were, it was like, okay, well, you got to sell videos on the internet. Well, I don't want to do that because I got family, and it's like, okay, there was a lot of different contradictions to
Yeah.
what from what he said his goals were, but what he was comfortable with were like, well, you can't do that unless you do this, and it's one of those things where sometimes I have it was something I said on the phone with you when we were talking about it earlier, but like there's a difference between like having issues and having excuses,
Right.
right? Sometimes people have legitimate issues, they have hard limits, they have things that they just don't want to do,
Right.
and that's fine. But then sometimes people also have like excuses not to move forward with things, and unfortunately, because of just human decency, it's not really your place to question somebody whether or not they're being legitimate about their issues or they're just making fucking excuses. So you just kind of have to let it go.
Right.
Somebody says no about something, you don't sit there and debate them. Someone doesn't want to do anal, you don't fucking get to do anal. It's the way the world works. So like for him to be like, I don't want to do this, I don't want to do that, you're like, well, you're making this math problem harder to solve.
Right.
But okay, fine. And he did have a lot of things that he didn't want to do as far as for his own anonymity, which he was supposedly trying to protect, but that didn't really make sense given that he also was trying to reach a larger audience.
Yeah.
But somehow his content was supposed to be like on a missile guidance system so that it would weave through a crowd of like people that knew him and just
Right.
target the people that didn't, which is like
Yeah.
fucking nothing works like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, there was a lot of like head scratching stuff across the board. And he lived 20 minutes away from me, which was kind of like, oh, okay.
I mean, regardless of everything, he still seems like a very interesting individual. Even if
no disrespect intended, definitely.
Right. I mean, even if it's just his dick is massive, I still have so many questions and things that I'd like to share with you guys that he shared with me and stuff like that I'm pretty sure you guys would all want to hear about. And and then I mean, gosh, if we get to the alien stuff, well, we get to that too. But I don't want to piss him off. It's just that you have to have some type skepticalness going into these things, because you're thrown so many different things every day that it's not all real, and it's not all real because it doesn't work together. And
right.
So obviously some of it, and then of course you got people that are just looking for their 15 minutes of fame. And so who knows, maybe the guy claims he found me through a mutual friend, which she's confirmed that she didn't talk to him about me at all. So but it could be that he knows me because I'm local and popular in the local area. He could have maybe he listens to the show, I don't know. But
right.
Either way, I'd like
in which case, come on, dude. I would love to have this person on as a guest.
Right. It's it's not to be critical or poke fun or anything. I mean, I'm legitimately curious.
Well, I think there's a story there. I think that regardless of it's up to the audience to decide if they want to believe or if they want to go all in or not. But I think that part of what we the responsibility that we have as podcasters is, I mean, to produce content that is worthwhile to an audience.
Right.
And I think that this story is definitely worthwhile to an audience. And I think that, having a respectful like conversation and not, obviously we're not going to try to goof on him or,
right.
play the X-Files theme or like any kind of fucking, sit there and make fun of him and shit. But like, no, I mean, like give this dude, this guy's got a message. This guy's trying to reach a larger audience. Okay, here you go.
All right, perfect place to do it. Yeah, I mean,
make your pitch, and
but we'll see. So hopefully we'll have him on a later date. We're still it's still under investigation, so we'll see what happens there. But anyway, so to get on to more relevant topics, what are you doing for Halloween, Pat? You got plans?
Yeah. So we're doing trick-or-treating on Saturday. I'm dressing up like Watto from Star Wars. My son is going to be an Ewok in the most expensive homemade Ewok costume ever. And my daughter is going to be one of the characters from Among Us,
Oh,
which
okay.
you know what that is, that game
Yeah,
where
that
like
game that all the kids are talking about nowadays.
yeah, so which is like I don't know, it's like that's cool, but it just seems like so much and this isn't me fucking ragging on her because I mean it's obviously it's my daughter, I love her, but like so much of like she just reminds me of that episode of like The Simpsons where Milhouse has elf pogs and, and like it's like such a flash in the pan like thing like from a very
Yeah,
specific part in like point in like culture where
yeah.
we're like elf and pogs. Do you remember what pogs were? No,
I,
you're
yeah, we had Pogs. We had Pogs in the
really
70s. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, I mean like
We
that's
had Alf too.
yeah, so it's just like oh like you're Among Us like that like that's like an iPad app that'll be forgotten.
It's right. It's not timeless at all. Like it's
Right.
very
Not. I mean, not that I'm talking like, dude. I'm a character from episode 1 of Star Wars, but like mine's kind of supposed to be like this goofy fucking throwaway thing. So yeah, we're trick or treating on Saturday. Now, if we weren't in the middle of a pandemic and we weren't under strict orders not to congregate in large groups, and it wasn't also terribly irresponsible and all the other things that people are yelling at each other for doing on the
yeah.
internet, I might be interested in having like a small bonfire on Friday at my place. But given that that would be the wrong thing to do at this point in human history, uh, I'll probably not have a bonfire on Friday, even though that's what I would do if I was the type of person not to give a fuck about what other people say.
Wow.
So we'll see. We'll
Well,
see.
damn, Pat, way to show all over my plans and make me feel like a bad person. Jesus.
Why?
Because I'm having a Halloween party.
Well, no, don't. I guess you didn't. You didn't catch what I was trying to fucking
Oh, I see what
say.
you're saying. You're trying to not be a bad person. I get it. I get it.
Yeah, on the surface, I mean, like,
The thing is that pretty much everybody that's coming are people that I've been seeing this whole time. It's people that don't work, like they don't work with people. And it's people that I know that follow. I think that's the big important thing here is that these people follow the guidelines when when they're out and about doing things. You know what I mean? Like these aren't people that are not wearing their mask and not washing their hands. And again, they're not people that are working in a factory of 500 people or anything like that.
mm-hmm.
So I don't really, even though I'm, I am high risk, I still think it's very important for our mental health to still, treat ourselves to some of these things. And, and I'm nervous about it. I'm not going to lie. I am very nervous, just about the following, because then Saturday we're trick or treating and, we'll see what happens. But, we're not in a great spot currently. My town itself, like my little suburb, is not doing too badly. My county's not doing good. And my state is not doing good. Actually, our governor today was threatening to shut us down again. So that's probably coming before the holidays, honestly. But, I'm still going to do it. We'll be compliant. I think there's going to be less than 10 people. I'm not sure. I'm trying to have this big sex orgy thing on Friday. So we'll see. I'll see if that happens. I hope so.
Yeah, we have to have less than 25, so the orgy had to be postponed because that's not.
Oh yeah,
that's just too few.
50. That's for
exactly. Well, no, but I mean 30 is a good round number. You have to make sure there's representation.
Yeah, I mean,
you know what I mean?
These are all people I've already, I'm already around all the time. It's just, usually I have a big Halloween party and every year and everybody's invited, people that people don't talk to anymore. Everybody else's friends are invited. It's usually like a big affair. It's not a big affair this year, but there's still definitely a party. And I'm excited about it. So on Friday, I get to finally, officially premiere my Chucky costume that, I'm getting paid to wear. So and that's sad about it though. It was a good choice anyway. And then when I walk around with my daughter on actual Beggars Night, I'll probably just throw on my witch hat and call it a day.
Yeah.
Because then afterwards, which I kind of joked about having the big orgy on Friday, but really Saturday is my big important sex night. So
and is that because of Halloween or is it just because like Saturday?
It is. So yeah, I fully intend on performing sex magic on Saturday and need to have a partner to do it. So it's not really about enjoying myself. It's more kind of work. Well, I'll enjoy myself, but I have an excuse to do it now. So
Why do you see it as work? Is good? Why is it like required for you to do that?
it's not required. It's just it would be a good time to do it if I'm going to do it. If I'm going
Yeah.
to do the sex magic thing. So, it makes sense because it goes along with my other rituals. So, that's kind of the plan. I mean, I'll probably have sex both nights, let's be honest. So, it is what it is. But yeah, so um kind of getting more into, the meat of the episode, I wanted to bring up because it's such a rare occasion, this big beautiful blue moon that we're going to have on Halloween night. It's been like the talk of the town lately. So,
Right.
you
And a
know,
blue moon is the second full moon within a calendar month.
correct. Yep. So when you have, you have the blue moon, whenever it is, you have two full moons in 1 month. And it will be blue. Now it could be difficult to see, but people will take plenty of pictures and stuff like that for, and then you'll be able to see it. But you should be able to see the blue hue with the naked eye, which you usually kind of get anyway with the darkness around it. So, yeah, it's a big thing in my community. Because Halloween night is, it's very much a ritualistic thing, in all kinds of occult followings, right? Halloween night is supposed to be the night where basically the walls between dimensions are thin. So it's like where the dead and the living kind of can merge together. And now the way that I look at it is when I think about dimensions, I go science. So so it's still very significant to me. Now, we had talked about doing this episode, and me and Pat kind of had, I'm not going to say, we didn't have clashes, but when you talk about witchcraft and you talk about the occult and you talk about astrology and just all these big topics, there's a lot to it. It's not cut and dry. It's not an easy subject to sit down and talk about.
Mm-hmm.
So, we kind of had a hard time kind of pushing the direction of the show and where it should go. And, me personally, I call myself a witch. Everybody, knows me as a witch. That's what I tell everyone. But I'm not Wiccan. Like, I'm not pagan. I don't follow anything in particular because I'm very eclectic. So, like, I just kind of, if I read something from any culture and it resonates with me, I'll take it and I'll use it. And, that's just how, I don't know, I've operated for years now, because I don't really, because for me it's really scientific. I mean, it's definitely a pseudoscience, but when I approach things, I'm very analytical, and I like to have proof that these things exist and things like that. So, I have spiritual things happen a lot, but I believe that there's a science behind it. So that's kind of like where my studies are as far as my Fortean investigations go, is that, these can be spiritual happenings. You can see ghosts, but I think that there is a science and there's a way to prove it. And I apply that to I don't want to say my religion, but my spirituality as well. So, I'm going to talk about a lot of things. I'm going to hope to not piss anybody off while I do it. But my main message, my overall way that I live my life is just in love and light, being a good person. That's really important to me. And that's just kind of how I go about doing things. So, I've got a couple of things planned for Halloween. So I'll kind of go back to what I was talking about.
Right.
I was talking about the sex magic. That's the sexy part, right? That's the fun part. Sex magic is where you use the energy of your orgasms to put into your manifestation. So that's mostly what I do, is pretty much law of attraction. And so like manifesting is like my big thing. And it's not really, you don't like make things happen, but you just kind of slightly, bend things to make things happen for you. And it's not that you can't be like, you can't like cast a spell, like a job spell, and be like, oh, I need a job, but not put in the job applications. Like, you have to do
Right.
both. You have to do the work also. So when it comes to sex magic, basically it's just, while you're having an orgasm, and you can do it by yourself, while you're masturbating and you're orgasming, you just kind of envision what it is you want or what you're trying to manifest, and then, keep that in your head while you're doing the deed. Um,
So do you just do like straight visualization, or do you employ sigils at all?
I haven't really gotten too much into sigils because frankly, I don't because I haven't gotten into them. I don't know enough about them to draw anything. My spirituality has been kind of a new thing. So when I was a teenager, I was dating this girl for a really long time, and her mom and her were both witches, but they were Wiccan. And I got involved kind of with them and joined their coven. And come to find out later that covens can be really toxic, which I'm not going to get too crazy into. But so I
Well,
already
it's a
had.
group with a bunch of chicks. It's like I mean, I think PTA groups are the same thing. They have the same amount of toxicity. Anytime you have
Yeah,
like
I mean,
12,
right.
not to be misogynist here, but I mean, let's face it. Like we
Well,
know
I mean,
group
it's pretty
dynamics.
much the same thing as like a little cult. You typically have somebody that's in charge, so you have like a leader. So it's like whatever they tell you is the way it is. Now the thing about witches is that just in general, you'll join any witch group. I meet up with all kinds of witches and talk to all kinds. There's no wrong way to do your thing, and that's kind of, I guess that's why
Right.
I like the community so much, is because they're so accepting of whatever it is you want to learn. For the most part, you'll have the pretentious ones that are like, "Hey, you can't do that," and it's like, like the rule of three, or tenfold things coming back tenfold karma. Like if you cast like a revenge spell on somebody, then it's going to come back on you in a bad way because your intent is bad and blah blah blah. I don't see it that way. If you cast a revenge spell on somebody, you just need to make sure that they deserve it. And if they deserve it, then they're going to get what they deserve, And so that's just, all you did was help speed up the process of the karma train. So, that's the way that I see it. But anyway, so, I've been practicing this for a very long time. But I kind of got out of it for a long time because I just thought, I don't know, I got like really edgy, and I'm like, oh, all religion's bullshit and everything sucks. So, I'm still kind of new back into it again. I just started practicing again sometime last year when I picked up my tarot card deck, and I've kind of started over. So sigils I haven't quite gotten to yet. It is something that I do want to pick up eventually. When I do some of these things, like my favorite thing are candle spells. So like when I do a candle spell, usually I'll carve into the candle whatever my intent is for it,
Oh, okay.
in small terms, yeah, and then burn it. So yeah, I mean, I would be interested. I'd be interested in learning about them, but as far as sex magic goes, no, usually the other partner doesn't even know what's happening. So
Right. Yeah. The way sigils work is you come up with like a sentence, like a statement of intent, right?
right,
And you make it as direct and specific as possible. And then you write it down on a sheet of paper, and you take out all the vowels and repeating consonants.
okay,
So then you're left with just a handful of like a handful of letters, right? And then what you do is you just kind of meld those letters into like a little like design,
like a
right?
symbol, yeah,
Yeah, and then you write that down on a sheet of paper, and then it's just charged in a similar way, and then it's disposed of afterwards. And you can get creative with the way you dispose it. Like if you're gonna burn the sheet of paper, you're gonna flush it down the toilet, you're gonna tear it up into a bunch of little pieces and throw it into the wind. You can get creative with all that stuff. But it's basically the same thing. And one of the things that you can even do with it, supposedly, if you believe all this stuff works, is you can sit down and you can create a ton of them at once. You can create 12 different sigils and just kind of forget what they mean, and
yeah.
then stick them in your bedside drawer. And then whenever you're ready to charge it, pull it out and, do your thing with it. And then, that way you don't know specifically what you're doing. And some people feel like that helps, the detachment from it.
Mhm.
But what, it kind of work, that's a little kind of contradictive with what you're talking about, because with you, you're visualizing in your head. So you're very well connected to it in that moment.
Right.
But some people and I'm not saying, all this stuff I think is really left, I'm not going to get into my whole spiel about it.
Personal.
Yeah, it's very personal, and I think it doesn't really matter. I think if you're willing and your intent is what's more important, and I think different people can disagree about things, but whoever, at the end of the day, whoever wants it bad enough is going to be the one that's right.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing about it. It's like you don't have to have your religion decided to practice these things. Like you don't have to know all the answers. It's very much about kind of feeling it out and just knowing, I as corny as it is, knowing in your heart what feels right. I mean, it is, and you just know, it's a very weird experience to try to put out there if you haven't experienced it. But, when you think about these different things, you just kind of, you just know, my thing is, I do like the typical, witch stuff. I go out, I have a collection of feathers specifically from Point Pleasant. Because they give them to me every time I go. I mean, and not like they give them to me, but somebody's giving them to me every time I go, and they're for me, and I take them. I will, pick up the pretty rocks and things like that. I've got some leaves from outside that I took. Me and my daughter actually, I had her do her first spell on the last full moon, because I've been kind of explaining it to her, but it's difficult because she wants to go around telling everybody that we're witches, and I don't know. It just feels weird to let her do that, I guess.
It's so we talked about this episode, but we really didn't, and it's so crazy that you bring that up. I had a similar situation recently with my daughter too, where she was playing around with tarot cards and Ouija boards and shit like that with some of her cousins.
Yeah.
And I was very apprehensive of that because not because I'm some like insane fundamentalist right wing Christian, but because I don't think that she knows well enough to know what she's doing. She's fucking 9. She's incredibly stupid for being my offspring. And I don't. That's not a personal indictment against her. It's just like you're fucking 9, man.
Yeah, she's right.
And it's not that I think that stuff is all like stupid or like whatever. It's that I don't think it is. It's the exact opposite.
Yeah, she could fuck around and do something bad. Yeah.
Right. And I've seen enough movies too, like hello. Which is interesting. With the Ouija thing is always interesting. I don't think we need to do a whole episode on that, but like, Jesus Christ. I was like, Ouija boards are like chainsaws. Like, yeah, you can get them at Target, but they can still fuck you up.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like there's still a certain amount of responsibility that needs to be employed. And that was the way that I looked at it. But, and I kind of had it out with her mom, who like, co-parenting is always fucking a ball of laughs.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, it's hard to talk about anything. And her and I get along pretty well. I'm not trying to like demonize her or anything, especially since she's probably listening to this episode.
At least don't do it like, public iPad. I'll tell you.
Yeah. But, one of the things that I did say when I emailed her about this was that, yeah, I mean, there's not only the fact that I think she's too young to fully grasp what she's doing, but she's also too young to fully grasp that if she goes to school and she starts talking about all this stuff, that she could invite like just kind of like social persecution where like the other people make fun of her or something like that, or their parents are like, well, I don't want her coming over if she does that. Right. Like you don't want her not invited to the sleepovers or anything. You want her to kind of have a be as middle of the road as possible. I mean, especially at this age, it's not like I'm telling her like, hey, you can't be a skateboarder and listen to punk rock. You got to be a preppy in school because you need to get along with everyone. It's not that like, but it's like, there's
a stigma behind it, and it's weird to people that aren't into it. You know what I mean? So it's
well, especially at that age, like you're talking about 3rd grade, like,
right?
Like
right.
I'll fight about. We could have this conversation in 8th grade, maybe 7th. I'm okay with that. Then we sit down and we go over all this. But right now, no.
Well, see, my problem is that I'm actively teaching mine, so that's.
But if you know what though, but that's the thing. That's another thing too. And this isn't me just flip flopping, but I feel like you're actively teaching. So, okay, so this is something we sit down and this is something we discuss. And we talk about the pros and the cons and the dangers and the things to look out for and all this. You're not just like throwing 4 girls a Ouija board and been like, try to talk to grandpa,
Right.
It's like that. okay, you're actively is the word here, you know. And I feel that's a little bit different. Not to I don't let's move away from that. I'm going to shut the fuck up now
We're
before I
gonna
get
have a whole
myself in
episode about
trouble.
parenting one of these days, and we can definitely get into some stuff there. I'm excited. But anyway, so yeah, so with this particular event, it is extremely rare. Like the last time this happened, I think was in 1940. And it's not
That there was a blue moon on Halloween.
that there was a yes, a blue moon on Halloween. Yes.
Okay.
Specifically.
All right, cool.
A full moon on Halloween, the last time that happened was 19 years ago. So 2001. And what's interesting about what is happening right now is that the entire year itself has been extremely divinely guided. It's supposed to be a huge learning experience for a lot of people. And so I've been kind of getting into numerology as well. And, one thing about the year 2020 is that it's a 4-year, which is a big year for tearing down old habits and building new foundations and just extreme change. So what's also happening right now is that Mercury's in retrograde, and the Mercury retrograde ends on the 3rd, on the election day. And the last retrograde of the year is about, again, shedding old skins and creating new habits and building foundation for change.
Now, can you just explain the retrograde thing just for a second? Because I feel like that's something that's like nonsense dialogue that's thrown in as like a joke in like bad sitcoms. You know what I mean? Where it's like, oh, I feel like I don't really know what that means, but it's been used as a punchline so much that it would be nice to get like a definitive explanation of that.
Sure. So it is used as the punchline a lot, and that's very sad. So all the planets go into retrograde. And so all it means, it's kind of like in tarot, where, if you pull a card, it's either upright or it's reversed. So when a planet goes into retrograde, it's reversed. So whatever, it is that's going on, it's in like a reverse meaning. Now, retrograde can also be affected by different things, different planet placements when it's in retrograde. Right now it's in retrograde, and it's officially Taurus season. I don't know. No, is it still Scorpio? No, it's Scorpio season. Yeah, there's so much to it. So depending on what season it retrogrades in also depends on how that's going to affect things. Now, everybody thinks that Mercury retrograde is a terrible, horrible thing, and horrible things go wrong. They can. And the reason why they do is a personal thing. And it's because you didn't learn your lesson in between the time it took for Mercury retrograde to come. So the universe is always teaching you lessons, and you can either accept it and try to change and grow and accept those lessons and move forward, or you can fight it. And the thing is that the universe is always going to win. So whenever it's trying to teach you a lesson, it can either do it the easy way or it can do it the hard way. The hard way is the retrogrades. If you did not learn those lessons not when it wasn't in retrograde, you're going to when it is. So it's kind of a direct responsibility thing. So it's not just because it's in retrograde, you're just going to simply be unlucky. It's typically a time for a lot of miscommunication, because people are confused, because people are extra charged, because they're emotional, because people are really bad about growth and personal growth. So, that's retrograde in a nutshell, like I said, and it happens to all the planets, just people don't notice. Some of the planets take longer. I'm currently having my Saturn return, which is a whole nother ball game, and it's going to go on until the end of next year for me, which sucks. But
what does that mean? Because when you say return of Saturn, all I can think of is a No Doubt album.
Your Saturn return happens roughly about every 30 years. So when you're born, all the planets are in a certain aspect, right? They're at a certain spot. My Saturn happened to be in Aquarius when I was born. So Saturn will then leave Aquarius and won't be back for anywhere from 27 to 31 years. Mine recently, in the beginning of this year, entered back into Aquarius and will remain there because it moves slower than, say, Mercury does around us. And it'll remain. I think it left for a little bit, or something happened. It retrograded or something, and I had like a period of time where I had a break, and then it comes back. So what happens every 30 years. And a lot of people say this, when you hit 30 years old, you just change, right? Something just happens and you just change. And that's because of your Saturn return. So you end up going through, that's like your karmic lesson. So that's like the lessons that your soul needs to learn throughout your entire life. That's like not just like your small lessons that like Mercury retrograde will bring about, but these are like your big lessons that you need to go through. So like for me personally, I've been working through a lot of childhood trauma. That's just what it's brought about.
Right.
And that's what it'll do, and it'll keep going until you learn your lesson, or, you know, and if you don't, then you know, then you're doomed to repeat the process, unfortunately. So so it's a lot, I can tell you.
That's depressing.
Why is it depressing?
Because I think I learned my lessons. I don't know.
As long as you are actively trying to,
yes, definitely,
be a good person.
Of course. Yeah, of course.
You know, that's mostly what it is. I mean, it's just living your life in love and light and trying to be the best possible person that you can be. Now, sometimes you're not always going to be the best person. You know, we're not born perfect. And that's why we have to go through these life lessons. And maybe it could be something as simple as like, you know, you know, before Mercury retrograde, you were having issues with money. Maybe you were bad at spending or something like that. And then Mercury retrograde comes along, you know, maybe you spent frivolously or whatever, and it comes along, and now all of a sudden you've got, you know, $2,000 in car repairs that you weren't prepared for. You know, lesson learned, don't go spending your money on bullshit when you need to save it for stuff like this. You know,
right.
And that just happens. You know, we just do those things because we're humans and we're stupid. So so that's the small version of retrograde and what that means.
I think I just have like whatever the equivalent of like body dysmorphia is, as far like in relation to like my life. Like my professional dysmorphia, like right, I guess some people call it imposter syndrome, but I feel like everybody has that. Everybody's like, oh, I'm just fucking bullshit, because everyone's bullshitting everybody. So it's like we all have imposter syndrome because of the internet, you know, and like that's all social media is fucking imposter syndrome.
Right.
But I don't know. I think that, you know, I've learned to, I was actually just having a conversation with my boss about this today. You know, I'm one of those people that just needs to fucking climb mountains. Like I need to constantly feel like what I've done isn't enough and I need to do more. And I need to, and I don't walk around thinking I'm a failure and hating myself. Like some people, they take it to that extreme, and I'm definitely not there. But I mean, I feel like if I didn't feel the need to do more and climb higher, I wouldn't have done all the things that I've done. And I'm not saying that I've lived some expansive, impressive life and done all this crazy stuff. I mean, I've done shit that some people haven't done, but there's a lot of stuff out there that I'll never do, you know, and you get older and you realize that, you know, I'm going to turn 40 in 6 months. And when you start reaching that milestone, you start making peace with the fact that certain things probably ain't gonna fucking happen, you know, and you're about at the halfway point of your life, and like, listen, the door's not completely shut on stuff yet, but you made it this far, you know, and certain things happen, then
like your dream of being an Olympic gymnast is never going to come true.
Right. Or like, I mean, even you look at it like in purely like juvenile terms, for like, you know, your high school sweetheart, you know, married some dude in her late 20s, like they're probably not getting divorced. Like, they're probably going to be together forever. And it's just,
true.
You know, so some people walk around still pining after like exes, thinking that like, oh, one day we'll get together. And it's like, no, like if they've been married 14 years and they got 2 kids and a house and a vacation home in Michigan, your window's closed. Like that's probably not going to fucking happen.
I don't know. I think there's a good chance stuff like that could happen, but
right, yeah, okay. So maybe when, you know, I don't know, but
it's possible, but, you know, probable. I get what you're saying.
Yeah, my point is like it's just this weird balance between accepting the way things are and just saying, okay, this is fine, and not accepting the way certain things are and constantly pushing yourself to do more and more and more.
Well, you can't equate your success to your happiness. They have to be separate, for one. And which is hard, because when we do something that we see as, you know, success worthy, it gives us that shot of dopamine that we crave. and it feels good. And so, we automatically, our entire lives, that's what we're taught to do, is to, if you're successful, then you're happy. But it's not necessarily true. Just like, gosh, earlier in the week, just a couple days ago, I wrote my weekly review or whatever for Be My Cat, and the
For
director
what?
for Be My Cat. It's a movie. It's really good.
Oh, okay.
And and so I wrote my review for it, and the director, gave me a shout out on Twitter. I didn't tag him or anything. He went and saw the article on his own and gave me, no, he corrected something in the article, but he gave me the shout out. I was like, oh, thank you, blah, blah, blah. And, we had kind of a back and forth for a minute and whatever. And I had like mentioned it to like one of my friends, and just the way I talked about it was so nonchalant. And they're just like, why aren't you like celebrating that? That's really cool. And I'm just like, I don't know. I guess I just feel, because I feel like I should be doing more. I feel like that shouldn't be a small success. But I guess it is, and I just don't really, I have personally gotten into the habit of equating my success and my happiness, and that's not, you're not supposed to do that.
Right.
I need to do better. That's the lesson I need to learn. I need to separate the two and not worry so much about it, because, either way I'm going places. So, but anyway, we were kind of talking about, what were we talking about? We were talking about, law of attraction, and just kind of what all this means, and what you should be doing during this new moon. So anybody can do this. You don't have to practice anything. You don't have to light any candles. You don't have to do anything special. I choose to, just because I have been doing a lot of shadow work and things like that, and just kind of owning my own shit lately.
Please get to that when I complete the thought, but please circle back to shadow work.
Well, just shadow work is just basically the stuff you don't like about yourself that needs worked on. It's your lessons.
Okay.
It's, you have a shadow side and you have a light side, and your light side is like what helps you prevail in the world, and it's your good side and your bad side. So it's, so I've been doing a lot of inner things. Like I said, I've been presented with a lot of childhood trauma lately, and just all kinds of life altering shit. So, and I knew, as weird as it is, like I knew that this was happening. I knew last year that this was going to be a huge deal in my life. And, so I probably should have been a little more prepared, but whatever, I'm here now. So, my big thing is letting go of everything that's been holding me back to this point, and then manifesting. What I've been reading lately and doing is that, I do the tarot cards, and I do follow astrology. And like Pat, I was explaining to you, astrology is more than just your sun sign. You have an entire fucking birth chart that affects you. and it's something else, and we'll get to that in a minute. But for me personally, everything has pointed to this large abundance or just this overabundance that I'm supposed to have. All of my hard work has paid off, and I'm going to be extremely blessed. So what I'm doing is letting go of the shit that doesn't serve me anymore, and picking up the stuff that does, and calling for, I'm calling for my abundance. So, I'm going to do a candle spell, and, in order for me to do that, what I'm going to do is I'm probably going to set up like multiple candles, and I'm probably going to carve into them what I'm trying to do. Like one of them is friendship. I'd like to have, stronger bonds with the people that are already in my life. And I would like to be more mindful of their existence, because I'm really bad about reaching out to people. So I'm going to carve probably like friends or friendship or something into my candle. I'm going to like write a list of the names of the individuals on a piece of paper. I'm going to put it underneath the candle, let the candle burn out. It's simple, but you don't even have to do that much. You could just tell yourself for the whole weekend going through, think of little things. Think of something you can let go of, and just tell yourself, I'm going to let go of this. In place of that, I'm going to pick up this, and think of something that you would like to continue. Now, it doesn't work in the way that you think it does. Like I was saying with my daughter, the last full moon, I had her do a spell, and I had her, she went at it. She wrote down whatever it was she wanted to manifest. And she learned kind of what it meant, because one of the things she put down was a house with a swimming pool. And, obviously you're not going to get a house with a swimming pool when you wake up the next day. But one of the other things she put down was that one of our cats, he doesn't hate her or anything. He's just not very friendly with her. But she put down that she would, wanted him to like her more. And well, guess what? He's been liking her more. And so, she realized, and then the very next day we were outside, and she looks down on the ground, and there's a crystal quartz right there on the ground. And she picked it up, and it's hers now. And so, she learned some stuff. So it's not, you're not going to get the big things. It needs to be small things, small realistic things that you can already approach. Like I said, you can't do a job spell and not put in the applications. It doesn't work that way.
Right.
So, and then
start with cats, move on to the real estate market. You know what I mean? You gotta start small.
You'll get there, right? Eventually, right. Do the baby steps, and it all makes up the big picture. And so, for me personally, I am doing a lot of work and a lot of manifesting and a lot of letting go. And it's not just that I'm going to do these spells and I'm going to instantly let go of everything. It's a process, because I know this has been coming for so long. I've been slowly letting go as I go. And I might even have to deal with it the whole weekend and probably up through the end of the retrograde. And then at that point, in my mind, that's the deadline I've set for myself. After the retrograde, all of the shit that I was hanging on to is gone. It's erased from my mind, my existence. And then, like I said, the sex magic is just another part of it, just another way to manifest. And it's an even easier way. And again, you can do that by yourself. You can masturbate and do it by yourself.
Well, this is something that just popped in my head now when you were saying this, because I know with sigils, the idea is that you charge them when it's like you're firing them into the collective unconsciousness, right? Like you're taking this image and you're holding it in your mind, and then at this breaking point, at this apex of it would either be, if you're jerking off, it's the orgasm, but you can also do it when you're dancing or meditating or whatever.
Right.
Like when you reach that transcendent point, you're firing this image out, or you're firing this intention out, and that's where it gets taken up into the collective, and then hopefully manifests, right?
Right.
But what happens if the guy's not making you come?
Oh.
What happens if you're like, hello, I got 15 different things I'm trying to fucking take care of here, and you keep missing the button. Like, come on, man. Like, there's bigger things at stake here than.
So yeah, well, that's true. Well, okay, so I don't have that problem, so I can't speak for everybody. I don't think I've ever had sex and not come. I ever.
There's definitely people like that, and there's people that are not like that.
Normal people, yeah, normal people. Most women don't even come at all. That's sad for them. I'm sorry, but that's not me. No, I'm pretty lucky. So, but you're right. I mean, you're right. It might not work for everybody because of those things. One thing that I plan on doing is, like I said, well, the Halloween party is Friday, and I do plan on having group sex then, and like it's been discussed with the boyfriend, it's been discussed with other people. I plan on having group sex, and I plan on having them all, I'm going to tell them, while we're all having sex, I want you to think about how much you want me to have what I want. And now
shouldn't they be doing that anyway?
Well,
isn't that like a prerequisite every time?
That's true. I guess I am like the star of the show during the group sex session. So you're probably right. No, I just mean as more of a note. So it kind of gets them involved in the magic without actually getting personal with it, which I prefer. And so, that's one of the things that I'll be doing to kind of help it along. But then that's Friday, and then I'd like to, close it off with however I'm going to close it off on Saturday. I'm not sure if I'll disclose to the person what I'm doing. I don't think I have to. It just depends on who it is, I guess. I haven't decided yet. Whoever can make me come the most, I suppose. I don't know. We'll see.
They get taken to the bonus round?
Yes. It's whoever wins best costume at the party.
So now notice this is her vetting technique for all the guys out there listening. This is her vetting technique. You have to show proficiency during the audition. At no point did she say, I'm going to invite them all over, and the last one to leave is the one that wins.
Right, exactly.
Right? It's not like whoever like falls asleep in my bed and then
Right.
refuses to leave
Yeah.
the next morning, whoever leaves their cell phone and then comes back and awkwardly sits around for 4 hours. No. There's an audition process. You will be graded on it,
Yes.
and that will determine your role in the lineup.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly, yes. You got
Is it like SummerSlam where there's 30 men, but like they come in every 2 minutes, or is it just like you hit the ground running and they're all there at once?
That's a really good question. So I've never, and I think I've talked about this before on the show. I've never done any group sex where there's been multiple dicks involved. Not where multiple dicks are involved and I'm the focus. So this might be a first because I believe that pretty much everybody that is participating, I mean, we might pick up some stragglers during the party, but I'm pretty sure that everybody that's participating besides me has a dick. And so it'll be new. It'll be a very new experience, that's for sure. So I don't know.
So usually there's
what happens.
Usually there's more females in the mix.
There usually is, yeah. There usually is. With this, it's kind of a special event that's been planned for the sake of me being fulfilled. So,
wow,
it's kind of a gift to me, and so and I deserve it. So,
there's nothing wrong with planning your own party. You know what I mean?
Hey, you got to, we're all adults now. We don't get to just, we don't see each other as much as we used to. Sometimes you got to plan this stuff out, and that's just
right.
But like it's gonna be pretty casual. Whoever wants to join can definitely join. That's kind of the goal, and that's kind of how I'm setting it up. Is that what, at the end of the night, there's going to be a lot of sex happening. If you want to join, just stay. If you don't, go home early.
And if I were to have that bonfire on Friday, it would probably just involve people sitting around my backyard drinking Bud Light, listening to this Metallica playlist that I made on Spotify. But
and the thing is like it's not like, so this is like every one of my parties. So last year was the first year that I had where I was in a relationship, a pretty monogamous relationship with somebody during my Halloween party. And it was the first, because I have a lot of parties throughout the year. I like get-togethers. I like people, and so I usually have them for just no reason because I like to have them. And but they usually end up in some type, something sexual's happening at the end, and everybody knows how my parties are. I'm usually walking around with my tits out. It's just the way it is. And so I have this boyfriend, and he's there. And it was not a good, he was very mad at me. And I didn't understand, because to me, this was just how my life was. And it was probably the first time that I had ever really realized that my life and my social interactions were pretty atypical. So, either
that's
way,
pretty good if you got that far in the game before you felt, you had a pretty good run if you made it that far.
Yeah. Well, because before, everybody, it's no secret, I was exclusively single for 7 years. That was my big thing. I was single. I didn't want to be in a relationship. I fucked who I wanted. That was my thing. So then I jumped into this relationship, and it wasn't how I ever saw any of my relationships would be. And, he ended up being very jealous and very, and that's just not, I'm not that person. And so it was not a great time. And it just turned into it. I had a great time. Yeah, it was everybody else that didn't have a good time. I remember it being a great event. But we got into a big fight the next day, and I'm just like, you know what? So whatever happens this year will definitely beat out what happened last year. But usually my Halloween parties are really, it's probably the best party of the year. It really is.
Nice.
So I don't know how this year is going to turn out exactly. I'm not entirely sure who's showing up. I know some people, but it's definitely not going to be the numbers that I'm used to. And so I'm trying to like adjust for that. And I'm like, should I have a cutoff at some point? I'd be like, I hit so many people, and I'm like, you can't come, or, I don't know. So.
Well, I don't know, man. That's someone's got to work the door, I guess.
Right. Like somebody taking.
You charge $50 for single males, 30 per couple. If a couple shows up, they get a discount. Maybe they get in, but random dudes just showing up, was with track pants on, looking for a good time.
Yeah, I'm not sure what's gonna happen yet. I mean, well, I'll see you Friday. So, that's just, and that's how I always present it too. I'm just like, I don't like go out of my way to invite people. I'm like, everybody knows I'm having this Halloween party. I have a Facebook event that I've created for it. I'm like, fucking invite yourselves. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be drunk. So,
Right.
that's all that matters to me. So, that's just usually, that's usually how I do it every year. It's just that I usually have a really big turnout. So I'm kind of nervous that it might be more people than I expected. So
You never know. You know what I mean? With the COVID stuff, sometimes people want to go out and sometimes people don't.
right,
And that's why I've kind of been like just talking to people a little bit here and there. And so far, everyone that I've talked to has been like, yeah, like yes, this is fine. You know, like please, let's get together. Let's do something.
well,
You
one
know,
theme in my whole magical weekend is friendship, and so I'm not going to deprive that.
right?
If it's meant to be, it'll be. And that's just kind of the way that I've accepted it to be. So I'm going to try to, like I said, I'm trying to cultivate some of my friendships more, and see where that goes. But I don't know, if you were to manifest something this weekend, Pat, what would it be?
Um, I'm gonna, I guess I want my kids to have a good Halloween. First and foremost, not that it's like the holiday that their whole existence hinges upon.
Sure.
Um, I think it's different for kids nowadays. They when I was younger, we would walk up and down. You go out all night. You'd get
Right.
in shaving cream fights, and you'd come home and you'd have a pillowcase full of candy, and that was it. Now kids today, like they walk 2 blocks and they're like, "Can we go home?"
Yeah.
And honestly, my son likes handing out candy more than he likes going to door, just because he likes to be that kind of dude. Because he's chip off the old block. Oh,
Oh.
here you go. Here's a Tootsie Roll, nice costume. He's 10 years old. Acting like he's the mayor of the block. So I just hope that they have fun with that and they're good and it's not depressing and like, this is such a weird time in general for children, as I'm sure you know. That the little things you can do to kind of give them a sense of normalcy is, I feel, are important. So,
I think the
um,
kids need this a lot.
yeah, and I think conversely, the adults need the
Right.
Friday night party as well.
Right.
Um, so I mean, I just feel that if that were to be taking place, that you know, it's just it's nice to be around people, and I'm kind of like in the same boat as you, is that you know, I moved out when I was 19 and 20 actually. I'm sorry, moved out when I was like 20, and I had parties. I probably lived with roommates or by myself or had like squatter
Right.
apartments for the
Yeah.
a good 8 year run, and then I started having kids when I was about 28.
Yeah.
But for those 8 years, like, yeah, man, we had parties all the time, and it was great. It was great having friends over and sitting around the kitchen table and shooting the shit and drinking beers and people hooking up and this happening and that happening. And the older you get, the less that
Well, if you do
happens.
that, yeah.
But sometimes it does still, and that's always a good time.
Yeah.
I was
I like to be that person that makes sure that still happens because we all miss it, and that's, I feel like it's
right.
my job.
I used my last job when I worked at a hotel. I had an engineering crew that was underneath me, and we would have parties like 2 or 3 times a year. We'd have like a spring fling, and a fall formal, and a winter ball, and it was always great. We'd get everyone together, and it was always a different group every year. Sometimes it would be ex-employees, or if someone just left, they'd come back for it. Sometimes there'd be chicks from sales there, just other randos. And my friend Ashley, who listens to the show, hey Ashley, she would always get us. She works in the bar industry, and she'd always get us like hooked the fuck up at some place, and it was always a good time. And I just was looking at the pictures from the last one that we had, and last time there was only like 6 people. It was, you know what I mean, it was not very well attended. But well, that's not true. There was a decent amount at the first bar, but when we went to the second bar, there was fewer. But a bunch of people hooked up that night, and a bunch of weird shit happened, and it was like that was probably the best one in recent memory. Not because there was like 20 people there, it's because at the end of the night, it was me and 3 couples with people that had never met each other before that night. And everyone hooked up, and everyone texted me the next day telling me what happened, their stories and shit. And it was fun, you
Yeah.
know? Um, And yeah, it's nice to be the person that orchestrates all that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, oh yeah, I
It's
love
good.
playing
It's good to
host.
bring people together.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite. I mean, I do think so big. Like one year, 420 fell on an Easter, and that's happened a couple times now. But the one year I had an Easter egg hunt at my house with like weed related stuff like in the eggs, and some of them had weed, and some had lighters and joints, and I go all out. Like I love that shit. I'm fucking I'm a modern day Martha Stewart. It's great.
Well, you realize the importance of, and this kind of goes back to the magic thing, but like I really think that you know, I don't want to say like 90%, but like a big deal of quote unquote magic is to place importance on mundane things.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
What could be seen as mundane things, as far as the position of the planets and the stars in the sky, to elements of
Numbers.
nature, right? Numbers, exactly.
Right.
And when you talk about dates and holidays and festivals and parties, and we're going to celebrate this and we're going to celebrate that, yeah. I mean, look at Black Wednesday, or or when I was in a band with our mutual friend Mike Vanderbilt, we always, without fail, would have Christmas Eve shows, right, with our band, because Christmas Eve everyone's busy doing family shit,
Right.
but Christmas Eve,
Yeah.
most people usually have Christmas Eve off. Everyone's in town from college. It's
Yeah.
just as good. People are available. And that was our Christmas show. And we did a Christmas show every year. We always did Christmas Eve. And we always did Friday the 13th. Because those pop up a couple times a year
Right.
too. We always played on Friday the 13th. It's branding. You know what I mean? You find little signifiers that kind of have importance for whatever reason, and you build upon that,
Right.
right? And I think that works in a couple different ways.
Yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that. It is very much of a stop and smell the roses type of situation. You have to really just kind of breathe. One piece of advice a friend gives me a lot, specifically this year because it's been so rough for me, is that he'll tell me, he'll just tell me, he'll just say, just stop for a second and look around, and don't just look around, open your eyes.
Yeah.
And it always does give me pause. And I mean, the first time he ever told me, we were driving down the highway, and it wasn't anything spectacular, but it was kind of, the sun was kind of setting, and there was trees, and he's just like look at this, it's beautiful, and we're sitting here talking about bullshit and just ignoring the fact that this is just a beautiful moment. And I'm like, wow, you're right. And so, it's just about taking that pause and taking that moment to appreciate the little things for what they are. And at the same time, don't just use the things to your advantage all the time, and then not appreciate that, the gifts that you're given.
Right.
You got to do both. And you're right, that's pretty much what it is about. We'll definitely cover more topics. It's just, again, like I mentioned before, there's a lot to this world that you can't consolidate all of it down into an hour and a half episode. It just doesn't work that way.
No, I think it'll be like the dinosaur conspiracy one, where it's kind of like creationism is something we talked about over 3 episodes. And
Right.
like, you know what I mean? Like, it was kind of there were 3 very distinct episodes, but there was a very strong through line.
Right.
If it was a comic book, it would be the same, it would be a mini series or something,
Right.
And I could see this kind of being something we come back to a few times. Although next Tuesday, I don't know, you want to talk about, the calendar and the importance of dates. Next Tuesday, the next time we record, is November 3rd.
Yeah.
Election day.
It's a big day. We might record a day early because, but I guess.
Oh, okay.
We're not going to know the results right away, is what I'm hearing. So like we're not,
I think we'll know that night. I think, yeah.
I don't know. I'm hearing something.
Why, you think it's going to be that close? What first you're hearing? What are you hearing?
I don't think it's going to be that
Who's
close.
telling you?
So because of the way that they've done mail-in voting this year, is that they've kind of pushed that date off. And so because they've pushed that date off, it most likely we're not going to know the election results on that night.
Well, Wisconsin they were trying to get an extension for their absentee voting. And I think that whatever judge, Supreme Court or whatever, I don't know if it was the state court or if it was the federal court, but some judge told them, no, you have to have
Yeah.
your absentee ballots counted by November 3rd. There's going to be no extension for this. That they're pretty much maintaining. They need to do business as usual as far as that goes. Which, you know what, like, I have family that worked in local government and especially with the elections, and it was, not to get super political, but it's very interesting because like they're acting like a lot of this is like unprecedented, and it's
Yeah.
really not. Like absentee voting has been a fucking thing for a very long time, and there's been a whole lot of systems in place to make sure that this stuff happens and it's accounted for. And there's people that get hired for election time. They're called judges. That no, really, they're called judges of election, and they're hired, and they're equal parts. They're from the Democratic Party and the Republican Party, and they make sure that all this stuff is handled correctly. So the fact that like people are acting like our system can't handle this, like, yeah, we can.
Well, the problem is that people think that mail-in voting is different than absentee voting, and it's not. It's the same thing. They just call it something different, and they'll call it something different in every state. I don't know why, but it's the same goddamn thing. And the thing is that if you don't think that it's good enough for you, then what you're saying is that it's not good enough for our military. And last time I checked, if you don't agree with the military, then you can't be American.
Yeah.
I mean, it just comes down to that, So it's not like I'm not, you're over here like, oh yeah, they're called judges, and I'm like, haha. And it's not that. It's just that people really don't know how any of this works, and they all want to have opinions on it, and so I don't know, anyway, without getting further into it, the next time you guys hear us talk, we might have a new president. So it'll be, it'll be a very interesting coming weeks. I haven't really decided yet if we want to do any type of like government related episode, or if we just want to do something absolutely ridiculous to kind of give everybody a break from the politics and things like that. I'm not sure.
I don't think that's a terrible idea, just because it'd be awesome if we could get this to bring it full circle.
That would be perfect. It would be fucking perfect.
Why don't you try to get him to your fucking party on Friday?
I don't want him to know where I live. It's dangerous.
I mean,
if it wasn't at my house, I would, but like he's not a danger when he's here with like my fucking 10 other boyfriends, but like when I'm here by myself, like it's a problem.
Yeah, I mean, I could. That's true. It's not like you move after that day. It's like, no, I'll still be here on Tuesday.
Right. So. But I don't know. We'll try to talk him into it a little bit more, and hopefully, get him on. If you guys have questions for this guy, please fire him at us, because
it's a shame he doesn't have it. I guess I didn't really ask. I mean, we know he's on Facebook because that's how we were chatting yesterday.
Yeah.
But I wonder if he's on Twitter. It would be.
His profile's pretty locked down, so I don't know. I don't think so. He's kind of dumb.
Don't say that. Jesus Christ. I mean.
Okay, maybe not kind of dumb. He just seems kind of spacey. He says he's okay. Wait a minute. So no, he said he wasn't very tech savvy. So that's
right. I think that's what you meant, is that technologically dumb, which I think he would probably agree with you on that.
Right. So I don't think he's probably on Twitter.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you guys have questions for him and you're curious about his giant dick, it is very interesting. If you have questions for him about the aliens, I mean, please, shoot him at us, and we'll try our best to get him on the show. I mean, he seems at least partially interested, so we could, try to set that up and see what we can do.
Yeah, you can contact us via the Twitter at Wednesdays Talk. Wednesdays plural talk on Twitter. Wednesdays We Talk Weird Podcast.
Wednesdays Talk, and we'll be on there. But either way, guys, be safe for Halloween. If you're gonna do any manifesting, make sure you drop some old shit and pick up some new shit. That's my best advice. So other than that, we will see you guys next Wednesday.